My friend Richard Kaplan, who does a great job on an aviation segment, has been waiting for weeks to do this segment to talk to two people what it's like to take a 26-hour flight. So Richard, take it away.
Thank you, Howie. First of all, welcome to the U.S. It's great to have you. And what is it like to be on an airplane for 26 solo hours?
In one word, it's pretty brutal. I mean, to get from here to Australia, and I like to take Qantas when I can. Basically, you do the way I usually go is a five-hour flight, basically to LA. Then you've got like a connection over there. Then you fly, is it 14 hours?
Yeah, it's
to
14.
Say Sydney or Melbourne, and then you got like another.
Like 5 hours, yeah.
Yeah, 5 hours from Sydney or Melbourne to Perth. I think you got to be prepared. I think you have to like get me well rested the night before. I actually love it because I get to catch up on all my favourite movies, have a few glasses of wine, knock myself out.
Look, I'd say it's kind of like a little life. And you go on this plane, you have the different journeys. So you get on and the food is great. From these big planes, you get really nice meals. And then you sort of settle in, you watch your first movie, then you might have a sleep. But then you hit, for me, it's about the 12-hour mark on the big stretch where you go, I have to do something. And I have no shame. I go in the middle, at the back of the plane, I do yoga. I have no shame. I go to the back of the plane, do some yoga, but it's tough. You go through sort of stages of, okay, there's how long left now? You know, my best friend that flies with me a lot, last year we were coming across and he said, he went to sleep and he woke up and he goes, we've got 2 hours left. And I said, mate, you've been on the plane 1 hour. So, those type of things do happen. And they're long, but I mean, the result of coming from such a beautiful country to another incredible country is worth it.
Now, the United States has taken a major interest in Australia in the last few years. Delta just started a long-haul flight out of Atlanta to Sydney. Are you surprised by the interest that other countries have in Australia? And also, do you feel that this is a benefit to an area like Perth, which a lot of people, I'm not too familiar with Australia, but I know that Perth sits all the way on the other side of where Sydney is, on the west coast. Yeah. And it's isolated. Do you think that Perth will finally get the exposure that it needs to become on par, say, with maybe New York or Los Angeles as far as a developed city for international travel?
Great question. I think, for me, being an Aussie, I've always been like, Brazil, I can't wait to one day go to Brazil. It's that really sort of far away, fantasy, beautiful place. And I think for us being Australians, that's not the case for us, but for you guys, for Americans and stuff, I think there's this beautiful sort of fantasy element of curiosity about Australia. I think, and you're right, one of the very large things for the economy in Australia is tourism. Perth is literally the most isolated capital city in the world. And I'm pretty, you can Google that, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. So the more people travel there, the better. But the other beautiful thing about it, the fact that it is so isolated, and the fact that not so many people go there. As Connor was saying, you can go to a beach in Perth and have hundreds of yards of the beach to yourself.
What do you think, Connor? Do you think that Perth is isolated and that with Delta now coming to Sydney that maybe that isolation might be coming to an end?
Look, I would certainly hope so. I think the tourism in Perth, surprised me growing up that it wasn't a lot more, because you fly, there's this idea of Sydney having incredible beaches, which they do, but I would definitely argue that Perth has just as good, if not better, beaches. So I'm really surprised it hasn't kicked up. I think the main thing is the length of the flight, and a lot of people can't fathom going that far on a plane when they've got Europe or South America to travel to. But I think with more airlines like Delta making these trips from places like Atlanta instead of just going from New York and LA is going to be a big step. I think the more people come to Sydney, then of course the more people are going to come to Perth, although Sydney is a lot more popular. I would like to think in 10, 15 years that Perth's tourism industry is kicked up. It'd be great.
Absolutely. One of the biggest things that I have noticed in the last few years is how Australia has developed into a global economic power. And also I've noticed that Australia has become huge in the fact that they are a major superpower in aspects of the economy. One of the things I am anxious to see is the development of more access to Australia, not just through air, but through ships and swell and so forth. Do you feel that Perth and cities like Perth are finally getting their due as far as development goes?
I would say yes. I think we have the via ships. We have a big enough port called Fremantle, which is beautiful, and it's well big enough for cruise ships. A lot of cruise ships do come in, especially from Asia, Singapore, those type of nations that really invest in our big port there. And it's close to the city, it's close to the beaches, it's wonderful, Fremantle, it's one of my favourite places. So we definitely have the capabilities. We're not a developing city at all, it's very much developed. We have everything you can get in Sydney and Melbourne. Perth doesn't miss out. I think it's just sort of waiting for those things to happen.
What do you think?
Are you talking just like as a tourism thing or economically? Or?
Both.
I think it's doing great. They a lot, especially from Western Australia where we're from. There's a huge mining industry. I'm not necessarily a fan of it because I'm a big fan of I think we all need to be far more environmentally conscious and think of global warming and all those things. But a lot of things are exported from the West Coast. We have gold, diamonds, uranium, all these mining industries. Lithium's a new thing that's going into everything. I think as the world gets more and more a sense of a global community, there's just going to be more and more people traveling there. But it's always going to be one of it's kind of like New Zealand. It's like one of the last bastions of people's travel, which is a beautiful thing.
Well, I'm very honored to meet the both of you. I wish you both the very best. And for those watching, I urge you to come to Australia. And if you are watching, take the time to take Qantas and go to Perth. Go to Perth. I am telling you, I know people who have gone, they all say the same thing. It is one of the most enchanting places they've ever visited. It is an amazing country. I hope to go someday. And I wish you all the very best. And Howie, back to you.
Okay. Great job, Rich Kaplan with Nick and Connor about the flight to Australia.